I was a young man in my 30s. I was in a serious relationship. I was working as a doctor. I had a nice condo on the lake, had a nice car. I had all the things that I thought the world told me I needed to be happy. I had a nice career, status, money, relationship, and I was not feeling very fulfilled. I remember saying to my mom, well, how did I get to this point? Everything I worked hard for, everything I thought I wanted in life I had, and yet I feel so unfulfilled. And then she said something to me which I had never done before. She said, well, why don't you give it over to God and do that in adoration? I remember walking in, I did maybe a holy 5 minutes, and I remember just sitting down and just having a conversation with God in my heart. And I said, God, my mother says you can make my crooked path straight. And if you can do that for me, I will start going back to church again. And if you really want me to practice my faith, then let me meet a nice Catholic girl. About a month later, I did meet a nice Catholic girl. She was very fervent in her faith. She got me to go to church regularly, got me to go to adoration. The only problem is she was a nun. So I said, God, did I leave out available? She introduced me to something that I'd never thought about before, and that was religious life. Because growing up, the only model for priesthood for me is seeing my priest in a parish, being a pastor, being a diocesan priest. She opened me up to a whole new world of religious life. And she said, maybe you should go start visiting religious orders. And so before I knew it, here I was flying on a plane to Texas to visit my first religious order. And it was a wonderful experience. I said, wow, I think I could do this. This is really a way of life. Something really touched me. And I said, I'm gonna pursue this. I'm gonna look at the different religious orders that do that. It wasn't until I visited the Crosiers, they were the last religious order I visited, where there was something about that community. They prayed, they gathered together 5 times a day for Mass, and then did ministry. But in addition to that routine, there was just such camaraderie and fraternity among the guys. And it reminded me of the close-knit family I had growing up, with my brother and my sister, with my cousins, how my family, we liked to tease one another. There was a lot of teasing that went on with the Crosiers. And these men were joyful. And I said, Lord, if you're calling me to this life, I think I could be joyful with these men. And so here I am still, 9 years later, still living in joy with these men, living this life. We like to say that we live together for God alone. And that really sums up communal life for the Crosiers. We come from so many different backgrounds, so many different cultures, but here we are all called to be Crosiers and to live together for God alone. I've taken a vow of poverty, taken a vow of chastity and obedience, and I've never been happier to not own anything, to not have anything, and to say I've never been freer and happier in my life. It doesn't matter what you have. If you're not living for God, if you're not pursuing what He's calling you to be, I don't think you'll ever feel fulfilled. I don't think you'll ever be happy in life. And that's where I was in my life. I was living for the world and not for God. It doesn't mean things are always going to be easy. It doesn't mean that things will always go smoothly. But in the end, living this life, knowing that you're fulfilling your baptismal call, your call to discipleship, as a religious, and for me as a Crosier, it's joyful.